Welcome to Bitstorm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Trevor Scott, and with me as always is Ben Slinger.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the show. As Trevor said, this is Bitstorm. Hello. We will make some game designs for your pleasure.
And how will we do that, Ben?
We are going to mine the brains of famous game developers. We've captured them. We're hiding them in the basement. We're going to bring them out and get a syringe and just pull out all that game juice. No, that's not true. No, we're going to play Click Pitch. This is a game where we each have a random word generator in front of us. And on the count of 3, 2, 1, click, we're going to click refresh, get a new word, jam them together, and make a game design out of those words.
That sounds like fun.
Shall we do this? Episode 127. Oh my fucking Christ. Let's do it.
3, 2, 1, click.
Yeah.
Broth.
Rose.
So I'm immediately picturing a witch over a cauldron.
Ooh, okay. Is her name Rose? Or is that is this a fairy tale kind of thing where we've got like the prick of a rose for Sleeping Beauty or the apple for Snow White? Yeah.
Well, I've been looking at a bit of Monster Prom lately, so I'm sort of in that sort of thing of I'm always seeing like this witch over this coven with this coven, you know, sort of over this cauldron, but she's in like either getting a date to a prom or she's like in a Bachelor style situation. So I'm thinking like a gamified
fantasy
version
Bachelor.
Fantasy
Bachelor. Reality TV Bachelor. All right, let's go down that route. So yeah, I played a little bit of Monster Prom recently too. So we could take some of those elements where it's just kind of little vignettes, little decision-making conversation trees, that kind of change your relationships between people. I guess obviously we'd present it in that sort of TV fashion.
Yeah.
As if the player is also watching the show. Yeah. Okay. What can we? So let's just to not make it too one-sided. Maybe this can be a kind of. Literally the only reason I know anything about this is because of Griffin and Rachel McElroy's podcast, Rose Buddies. But Bachelor in Paradise, I believe, had like an equal number of men and women.
Yes.
And it was sort of just they would each go on different dates with different people and see how they got along. So we could sort of do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And obviously we wouldn't limit it to opposite gendered dates, but just a good spread of genders and monster types.
Yep. Yeah, I'm certainly picturing that. You kind of get to create your character, with like an awesome sort of character creator. Where you get to choose the archetype of, witch or monster, as in a put-together monster. You can choose of the Frankenstein variety.
Right.
Or of the Frankenstein's monster variety.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, you could... a monster character creator could be a lot of fun all by itself.
Yep.
Like, I can see people spending hours just... Particularly if you can set different factors like... Yeah, like... You're right. You've got the archetype, or almost like an origin. So if they're a Frankenstein's monster, and they're all created by Dr. Frankenstein, he's got a assembly line now.
Yep.
But that means that the different parts you choose are all going to be sewed on.
What I think you get to
change the color of the stitching, and
what I think you get to do in there is you get to sort of choose what cadavers you choose bits from.
So you just got like meat hooks with dead bodies going past. It's like, yep, I'll take that leg. Well, I was just thinking, I wonder if you can like layer some of these things. I wonder if you can choose multiple kind of aspects almost, where you could be a ghost Frankenstein or a vampire Wolfman or
I like that. So yes, you get to choose your archetypes, but you can sort of mix and match, maybe up to 2 things together. So you can't be like a witch Frankenstein's monster vampire hybrid. But you can definitely be a vampire Frankenstein's monster, or you can be a
and then
a
they
vampire
can affect,
zombie.
and then they can affect different aspects in each of the scenes. Like if you've got the vampire aspect, then like you can have some scenes related to wanting to like drain somebody, or even just innuendo around sucking on things. There'll be a whole series of jokes and puns for every archetype, for every aspect. And then I like the idea of it just kind of, again, similar to Monster Prom. It's going to be a sequel. Like these little scenes that just play out.
Well, I'm thinking what it is it's monsters in paradise. I think you've
right. Yeah, there you go.
You're pretty much going down that sort of route. I'm thinking what other sort of monsters can we bring in? I'm thinking like a lich, Wendigo, just literally going through
a beholder.
I'm going through all the things in like Supernatural.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, it's, I guess, anything with a body. Are we going to have any, like a poltergeist that just kind of rattles pots and things on their date?
I'm thinking you've got to have like a haunted doll. I think that's like a perfect sort of thing, that you've got like a spirit that exists within a doll, but when it goes on a date, then the spirit actually comes out and you get to see the spirit.
Right. But it can't be interacted with physically unless it's in a doll form.
I don't know. Ghosts can interact. A witch could maybe cast a spell that
to like corporealize them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, and these could kind of be in the scenes where I think what would benefit you from having the aspects that you can choose a couple from, then you're able to custom write scenes between like a zombie and a witch, and you're more likely to have that happen, kind of thing, right? Like, and it will pull from those different scenes depending on not just how you've created a character, but how your stats are going and which characters you've sort of made grown relationships with and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I quite like that. I think with the different vignettes and the different archetypes, you could definitely have some fun creating conversations.
Yeah. This is interestingly similar to a game that back in my 20s and late teens, I was forever trying to make, and I was going to do it as like a web game where it was just a series of scenes, but the different scenes that would come up would depended on what your stats were at any point, and that you could have sort of any number of arbitrary stats, so you could easily create sort of a sequence of scenes. But just given that you had particular conditions, the scenes would always make sense, and then they'd change your stats in other ways, and it would just pull randomly from a big database. Although I never quite got that working, but this is kind of pulling the strings of that a bit. Where you've got 50 scenes that could be pulled from, but between a vampire and a Frankenstein's monster, and a couple different endings for each. And obviously, there's a fair bit of writing there, but if you make it easy enough to write. And where I was going with that is my idea was going to be that users could write them themselves. Then there's always going to be content,
Yeah, but the second that you let users write all the content for you, the second that it gets extremely racist or sexualized.
Oh no! And I'm not. I would never just put it out there unmoderated, uncut, But I guess what I mean is, even if it was just your dev team doing it or whatever, you could have a bunch of writers pumping them out over a few weeks and get a ton of content.
All I'm thinking is every time you go to talk to someone, it's like, I keep on getting 8 equals capital D.
What does that even mean? It's a wand.
I know, but it looks like a dick. 3, 2, 1, click.
Yeah, okay. Publicity.
Ripeness.
Ooh. Okay. I went straight to anthropomorphic fruit.
Cool.
This is the story of Peach. Funnily enough, she's an avocado. No, I don't know, like a world, like just sort of thinking movie stars in a world where everyone is fruit. I don't know. Is there something there?
Okay.
That's all I had.
So I'm just thinking about
because I was thinking of publicity.
So I'm now thinking about 15 minutes of fame because fruit really starts to die the second it's taken off the tree.
Yeah, yeah.
So the whole 15 minutes of fame aspect, I kind of like
15
the idea
hours of fame. It's how long the fruit has before it just starts to go too soft.
It depends. I mean, if a banana strips down, it's only got 15 minutes before it gets brown.
So there's a reason. Oh God! So there's a reason bananas don't do nude scenes. Is that what you're saying?
I'm thinking so, but the thing is, if they're in an action film and they get beaten up, they're gonna get bruises very quickly, and they're not going to heal. Like I'm thinking this whole world is
all right. So it's a world where everybody has very limited lifespans, really, but we are focusing on like famous people, the celebrities of the fruit world.
Thing is, the celebrities of the fruit world, I'm just picturing. Okay, so the biggest star is actually a piece of fruit that is still on the tree. Like,
okay, well that's a child star, right?
It's a child star, but the thing is, they CGI out the tree when it's acting. When it's acting.
Okay, to make it look older. It's like their version of aging CGI.
Yep.
All right, I like the setup. What sort of game is this? Is this... I mean, we could go point and click. Do you have a character that you play, or is this sort of just somehow a view into this world where you're having an effect?
Yeah, I kind of want the antagonist to be a bird.
Okay.
Yeah. Just because I think this whole idea of the reason for the entertainment is all these people are scared of like birds and insects and everything else that can basically eat and harm them.
Yeah.
Let alone like actual people, but I'm thinking in this world, people have been extinct for many, many years. But,
I mean, yeah, how else would fruit become the dominant life form?
Yep. So I think one of the things that the fruit actually want to do is they want to eventually reproduce. Now, the way fruit reproduces is it actually dies.
Mm-hmm.
And rots on the ground to then,
let its seed
create a new tree to then create new things. So the whole retirement thing of an actor is not seen as a sad sort of thing.
Is a bad, yeah. It's like reaching the potential.
Yeah.
Well, so maybe this is about the celebrity gives the more famous a piece of fruit is, the more choices they have for where they get to die.
Okay. Yeah.
And so maybe there are like prime positions for a new tree to grow that's going to, produce the most fruit, or be furthest, more protected from the birds or something like that. And so the reason this fruit is even trying to become famous is so that their legacy is protected and their children can grow up safely.
So I do like your idea of a adventure game, point and click.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm picturing is at the start, this is your first big break, getting a commercial or something like that. Because the type of fruit that you play, you only have like, you've just been picked and you've got basically 15 hours. Yep. So 15 hours to get your 15 minutes of fame, basically.
Do it in real time.
Not necessarily real time, but like I'm thinking as you go to do different things, and basically you're in a whole heap of different vignette sort of things.
Yeah, so it's one of these kind of time/resource management games where it's like, okay, what am I going to do next? I'm going to spend an hour training a certain skill, and that's going to give me better opportunities for what I can do after that. But it's also going to obviously take up a big chunk of my time.
Yep. And I know I don't really like this, like when games do this, but I think the quick time event does actually come into play in this sort of game, because I think how well you do in that depends on what avenues open up for the next hour. So
right.
I think basically,
well, it could also just be, if you do fight training, for example, because, action movie stars, because of the risk involved with the aforementioned bruising, they're going to make more money, or they're going to get more. I don't know. Is it money? Are we coming up with some currency or some sort of point system that allows them to get the prime locations? I don't know. But if you do badly on that, you might get bruised just from the fight training, right? And then you're not going to be able to get certain other types of jobs that rely on, like, how pristine a piece of fruit is. You're going to go in the odd bin.
You then can only get work as a stunt actor, and therefore, you're not actually known on screen.
Yeah, exactly. You're limiting, or you have to go for like voice acting jobs.
So I'm just picturing now, like, you're almost, each time that the game starts up, basically it's following, like, you can choose what type of fruit you want to be. I'm sort of almost moving away from the point and click adventure as such.
Yeah, I think this is almost more of like a roguelike.
A roguelike / arcade. So it's played from a point of view of a publicist sees a piece of fruit.
Right.
And sort of based off your fruit selection at the start, that you create your fruit sort of, you get to choose.
Well, maybe you don't get to choose. Maybe it's randomized in certain ways. And so maybe you get a selection of like 5 pieces of fruit at the beginning that come across as dossiers across your desk. And
you being the publicist
You're the publicist. Yeah, you get to like choose who you're going to take on and try to make into a star. Because that'd be an interesting framing device for that whole thing of like, okay, this is what you're going to have your client do next. And again, that would also account for, okay, so the publicist probably can't be a piece of fruit, because I feel like they need to survive multiple, lifetimes.
Well, what I'm thinking is they look like a piece of fruit, but that's something that you find out throughout the game that maybe.
You know what they actually are? They're fruit cake. Lasts forever.
Yeah, I love that.
I've seen everything. I've seen fruit come and go. I know what makes a star.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea that you play the publicist that you don't actually really ever get to see.
Yeah.
Like it's always from behind the desk sort of thing. That
yeah.
And everything that you do is almost from the view until you get towards the end. If you happen to finish like one whole run through.
Yeah. It kind of reveals it.
Yep.
As there's this like rotting piece of fruit in front of you asking you what to do next. But I like that aspect of it then, because as any good roguelike would do, each run unlocks other options for you. And that could be almost your reputation as a publicist, opening new doors for your clients and that sort of thing. New networking opportunities. You know, you can put them through a better combat training thing, or, you know, you've got additional things. Maybe you know, at the end of it, when you're getting close to the end, you've got like, you can freeze your client to keep them fresh for longer or something, you know.
But of course, if you're doing really badly, then all you're going to get access to is like fruit salad scenes, and
yeah, yeah, like they have to play zombies because they're so rotted and bruised. Zombie fruit.
I was thinking basically the fruit salad scenes are almost like the hardcore pornography of the fruit world.
They have to take their skin off.
Yeah. It's basically a snuff film, but it's...
Oh, God. Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? It's like, oh, my God, I saw a pit.
They just run into a knife.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if seeing someone's pit would be like the equivalent of seeing them naked or seeing like their bones through their flesh, which I think the latter.
Well, given the pit is like the seed, then effectively,
yeah,
it's like.
Well, I guess yeah.
This is the essence of me.
Well, that's it. So, is it sexy or is it like horrifying? Is it seeing someone's internal organ? Both. They're all fruit are like necrophiliacs because their whole life is about like rotting and growing from their insides.
Yeah, well, really what they are, what fruit is essentially the brain is like the seed. So
right.
the outside is just nourishment for the seed to take root. So I kind of like the idea that, you know, when they really strip down to their essence, it's just like, I'm picturing now apples and oranges that have multiple seeds in there. They've got like maybe different personalities that can come out because all the seeds are sort of taking over.
Right. Right. Okay. That's interesting.
Watermelons.
I mean, there are that's a lot of multiple personality disorder fruit. If you go
I'm not thinking that they're multiple personality disorders. I'm thinking this is a something that they live with.
Well, I think maybe you just get some like tension between the single, like the stone fruit and the seeded fruit or something.
Yeah, but they all hate seedless watermelons.
Yeah, I mean, they're an abomination. All right, 3, 2, 1, click. Hospital.
Furl.
Furl?
Furl.
Okay. That's interesting because, I mean, so unfurl means to kind of unravel, unroll.
Yep.
So I
and
assume
furl is roll or fold up.
Okay. All right. Hospital. Is this like a bed making simulation where you have to like tuck the sheets in as tight as possible? No. I don't know if that's a game.
Okay, so this is an add-on to Paperville Panic.
Okay. Yes.
And
for those who don't know, that's a VR game where you play a firefighter in a world full of made of paper.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
In this game, you work in a hospital, and one of the main things that you start seeing come in is some of the residents have been furled, which is equivalent to being assaulted, basically, where they're being folded or rolled up.
Okay. Well, I was more wondering if furling was what you had to do, because a lot of the sort of people in that game looked like folded up paper.
Yep.
Maybe they kind of slowly come unfolded, and it's almost an origami game.
Okay, do you work in the birthing unit then? You're folding up paper.
You're folding paper to make new humans?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the idea that it's just there's a scene where there's a printer with its legs spread and flat papers coming out with the patterns printed on them.
That's wrong. It's a dot matrix.
But it's got the patterns, right? So you know where to fold it, and then you have to fold it.
Just babies. The leg spread is just wrong, like a printer being spread eagle.
Yeah, exactly. It has a paper output vagina. It makes perfect sense. No, but I was thinking like even doctors would have to know how to furl, because like if someone needs a part of their paper replaced or they've come unfurled, these origami people have become unfurled. You have to be able to refurl them.
Refurl. Okay. So I'm picturing some of your tools of the trade are like glue sticks.
Mm-hmm. Staples.
Yep.
In a dire situation.
Yeah. Sticky tape.
Mm-hmm.
Or
I mean, ideally tape. Just tabs and slots, right?
Yeah.
Unless that's getting a bit too dirty.
No. Tabs and slots getting too dirty compared to the printer vagina.
That's not dirty. That's the beauty of life.
That's the meaning of life. Tabs and slots are fine. Yep.
Yeah. And then, you've just sort of got little, it could almost be a bit of, what was that game on the DS? Oh, Trauma Center. Where you've just got a bunch of tools and, you get a case come in and it's like you've got a certain amount of time to, all right, hand me the glue stick. I need to glue this up here, fold it up. I'm picturing it still as a VR game.
Oh, 100%. I was about to say that for those who don't know, Paperville Panic is actually a VR game as well. Like, I don't think we mentioned
I may
that
not
before.
have mentioned that, yeah.
So, yes, this is 100% a VR game because I'm picturing, using VR scissors could actually be kind of awesome. Like,
yeah, well, and just even being able to, like, grab the corner of a piece of paper and drag it to make a fold could work quite well, I feel like, in VR.
Yeah, and pressing down. Yeah. Well, because you said before about the printing out of the pattern. Well, the pattern's not going to reach all the way to the edge every time. You're going to have to sort of cut around.
Yeah. Like anyone who's done papercraft before. Yeah.
So the idea of being able to actually cut in VR could actually be kind of awesome.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I could see being able to pull the grip on like the Oculus Touch to close the scissors
slowly and all that sort of stuff because you don't want to tear the paper. That could actually be
as long
really
as you
cool.
can do that cool like sliding thing where you like keep it sort of half
thing and slide
and like slide it along as long as the scissors are sharp enough.
Oh yeah.
So satisfying until you tear the paper, gets caught. That could be really cool. And I think just cases coming in and having to like patch up with some paper and glue torn abdomen or replace an arm entirely with and again you go to the so do you have to go to the birthing unit to get the pattern for a new arm?
I think there's a different printer that can actually like print off
right
like body parts.
Okay, they're like prosthetics. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
You go to the prosthetic printer.
Yeah,
it also is spread eagle, but it's
also an anthropomorphic printer. It's it's just a robot.
It's just in a different part of the room.
Part of the hospital.
So what I'm also picturing is sort of like there's a story mode going along with this as well. Like effectively you're an intern when you first start, and you've got sort of like a Dr. Cox-esque role model that you sort
like a mentor.
Yeah, mentor.
I like the idea that as an intern initially, it's just like, put your finger here to hold this piece of paper still while I do this fold.
Yeah.
Hand me the scissors. Roll up that glue stick.
Oh God.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
You really had me with the printer spread eagled.
Oh, I know. All right, 3, 2, 1, click. Liquid.
Frontal.
Oh, come on. Frontal. The frontal side of something. The frontal lobe.
Yeah.
Is something that is not to do with nudity.
Mid-17th century in the sense relating to the forehead. Okay, so forehead liquid is almost sweat, if you know what I mean.
Oh, God. All right. Yep. It's a stretch, but keep going.
Or, hang on, no, frontal, a decorative cloth for covering the front of an altar.
Okay.
So, we've got a few different ideas here.
So this is a communion-giving simulator. The liquid being the wine. And it's a very blasphemous game a la Surgeon Simulator where people come up, open their mouths, and you have to get communion wafers and wine in there.
Okay, so but here's the wrinkle. It's got QWOP controls.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, you don't have great control. It's like you're picking up the wine bottle and you're having to, like, control each finger or something, and just pour wine all over your not constituents, your flock.
For some reason, I'm picturing that the characters in this world don't have fingers. Like, they've just got hands, so they've got to sort of try and grab things together
so
to try and
sort of just
tip
like
it out.
stumps. So they still have wrists.
But they've just got like blocks, almost like kind of like Lego things of just blocks of plastic sort of thing. So you're having to.
So religion in the Lego world hasn't. I don't think they've released like a Catholic Church Lego set.
Probably not.
So maybe we can be on the forefront of exploring that through a bumbling priest, who just can't pour wine.
Why do I get the feeling this has to be a VR game?
Well, all right. So one thing that, and maybe we'll tangent this off just to get away from the troubling idea of tackling Lego religion. A Lego VR game. Mm-hmm. I like the idea of a Lego VR game where, like, Lego people have those hands that if they want to pick something up, it has to be, like, either slid into or clicked into.
Yep.
And I love the idea of trying to pick something up by basically having to punch it so it clicks into your hand. And if you get it at the wrong angle or if it's too big for your hand or whatever, it's just going to, like, whack it away. Or you could, like, if it's something that's tapered, sometimes you've got, like, a tapered something, you can kind of put the thin end in and then move your hand down over it to the thicker end and it will hold and then you can move it. I think there's a lot that could be done with Lego hands in VR. That could be really interesting. Okay.
I mean, the start of the game could literally just be in this church. It's just a small little thing of you trying to pick up the wine bottle. So,
sure.
You punch it and it tips over and goes on the ground. So then you've got to sort of get your hand behind it so you can punch the wine bottle to actually be able to.
Yeah, well, then it might not just be punching it. If you've got something bracing it from behind, you can just push hard enough that it'll click in, right?
Yep.
You can imagine the ways of having to get something into a Lego hand.
leverage is usually what I use to get it to get things into a.
Well, and the thing is, getting them out of your hand is a task as well. You kind of have to put it on the edge of a table and like
just pull back as it drops onto the ground.
Yeah. That could actually be, a really interesting way of, because look, a lot of the challenge of the like Surgeon Simulator Co-op, whatever, comes from just awkward controls.
Yeah.
Like Octodad. That could be a really cool way to translate that to VR, where you still have full control over where your hands and arms are, but to actually do anything with them, you have to really kind of work at it.
Yeah, and the twisting of the hand, that changes the angle and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
The moving forward, like tilting and that sort of stuff, that's just sort of changing the angle a little bit so you can sort of clip on and that sort of stuff. But
yeah.
I'm picturing that if you put a little bit of pressure into it, you're just going to push things over because you're going to have pretty light physics.
Yeah, I think it would take a lot of tweaking to get that to work right, but I think there are some VR devs out there who are up to the challenge. And then look, I don't know what the rest of the game is. You can we could come up with a story around being a Lego person. Maybe you are a fucking Lego priest. I don't know.
I'm picturing that maybe you're just you've been the lucky one selected to do communion today. So you're up there doing this sort of thing, and then when you happen to pour it all over the minister's wife, pour the wine over the minister's wife and wreck her dress and all that sort of stuff, then
they kick you out.
Yeah,
and then the game really starts.
Yeah, and from then on, it's battling and all that sort of stuff.
Well, is this a combat-based game? I was picturing it more of like a job simulator kind of thing where you've got tasks in front of you and you have to work with these controls. But there could be combat, sure.
There can be combat.
How would that'd be interesting. Punch that hammer. Now you can't actually throw it because you can't unclip it from your hand.
It's all melee.
It would have to be. And it's all physically accurate, so it could just get pulled out of your hand at any time because it got caught on something the wrong way when it hits it. The leverage twists it out of your hand.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. 3 to 1 click.
Yeah, okay. Shine!
Veranda.
Well, verandas are generally sort of to keep out the sunshine.
Now I just want a VR simulator that you can basically sit down and have like that sound of like rain hitting the roof. You can have like a morning sunshine and nighttime sort of sun setting and just have it calm with different sounds.
Yeah, so it's just like a meditation kind of... It's basically a VR screensaver.
Yeah.
You sit there and just look out over a scene and stuff happens.
Or stuff doesn't happen.
Well, yeah, but like calm stuff. Like birds flying.
I kind of... One of my favorite things to do in summer is to, like, on a stormy day, go out under a veranda, sit down, have a beer as it's about to storm. Like, there's nothing better than the sound of rain on like a tin roof or...
All right. So you want to capture that in VR?
Yep.
Maybe this is just where our story begins. So you find yourself out on the veranda of a suburban home. The pitter-patter of rain is just starting up, and you see the storm clouds raging over, like blowing over.
And then a light shines down.
You know a storm's going to come.
You see in the distance like this beam of light just shine out of the sky.
Out of the sky, out of the clouds, between the clouds, or from the clouds?
Between the clouds, like if you can sort of see off in the distance, and then it's almost like a spotlight just sort of comes out of the clouds and then starts moving around. I'm picturing this is some sort of alien craft or something like that.
All right. Yes. So I like that idea. You see it in the distance. It starts moving around through the bush, and like it shines on a tree, and you see a bunch of birds like fly off. I'm picturing it at kind of dusk, and then obviously it moves closer, and eventually it reaches you. I guess.
Well, I reckon I'm picturing this being outback Australia.
Yeah,
that's sort of nothing around. So you see like the light coming down. It hits the ground. You see the light sort of disappear, and then you hear the sound. So you sort of you've got to go investigate.
Oh, okay. I was kind of picturing that like you get sucked up into an alien spaceship right away.
Well, I think it's one of those things that when you get over there, you've heard a sound of something land, whether it has crashed or something like that. You head on over there, and then that's when maybe there's some alien beings who see you as they're trying to repair their ship, and they capture you and take you on board.
Well, so yeah, let's figure out what sort of tone we're going for in this game. Because I could see that beginning being almost like a thriller horror sort of game in a way, where it's like, oh, I'm going through the bush, following this light. You're seeing things moving, you're hearing sounds around you.
Yep. Hearing dingoes off in the distance, seeing a kangaroo or so going by.
Yeah, fucking cockatoos squawking overhead.
Fucking drop
cockatoos
bears.
Squawk. Like what?
Fucking drop bears.
Drop bears. Well, I was going to say, if you suddenly have a cockatoo take off and squawk, like that would scare the fuck out of anyone if you're already tense.
Yeah.
Those things are loud. If we're going VR, what is our locomotion?
Oh, I like the free movement sort of stuff.
Yeah. I just feel like, I mean, for this sort of game, I think that would make the most sense. I do feel like it can be a bit immersion breaking, just because it doesn't really feel like you're kind of moving then. Yourself. You feel like a bit of a floating head.
Yeah, but I don't mind floating head syndrome.
But I guess if you kept the movement speed and such, where it didn't just feel like you were kind of sliding across the landscape, that could be okay.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm picturing is when you get taken by these aliens, I'm picturing that what they were actually coming to Earth for was to get a human.
Okay.
To take back to their planet to actually be the savior as such. And you just happen to be regular Joe, happen to be picked up to this other planet.
What is it about humans that they need?
Well, it turns out that, that whole Superman thing of, under a red sun thing. Well,
right, it's the opposite.
People under a yellow sun, when they get under a red sun, then they
become a super.
They don't necessarily get superpowers, but they're I'm picturing almost kind of like a speed up sort of thing of, everything in the world runs a lot slower, so you can get almost that super hot sort of feeling, but not, it's more bullet time, but in VR.
That's interesting. That could be an interesting mechanic of bringing that in based on the story.
Yeah. Rather than it being time moves when you move, it's just time's always moving slow.
Well, what could be interesting is if it's literally based on the sunlight, that while you have direct sunlight on you, it's moving slow. Because that could create some really strategic situations if we're talking about kind of a combat game.
Yeah.
Where,
I like this.
You need to be in the light, specifically the sunlight, for the time to be going slow.
But if you're in pure blackness, time goes at double speed.
How would you even know if you're in pure blackness?
Yeah, but as in, there's no red sunlight. It's like
right.
All conversations and everything seem to go like twice as fast.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Yeah,
you'd have to. Obviously, the level design would require a lot of thought around where the sunlight comes in and how accessible it is. Well,
I think early levels you're going to sort of be sort of doing parts in sunlight. You're going to be doing parts, if you happen to go behind this tree and you don't have any sunlight on you, then things are going to move faster, and therefore you start getting the idea as to, okay, this is where the sunlight energy is and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, okay, I like the
later on you get a suit that actually harnesses the energy and can just release the radiation just slightly into your body so that you can control time a little bit.
Okay, that's cool. I like the idea that the aliens speak at double speed, usually. So, like, when you find them, you can't really understand them.
Yeah.
Or maybe even more than double speed, right? Like, to the point where a human literally can't understand it.
Yeah.
And so it's not until you get to their planet. It's like, because I'm picturing a whole scene where they take you and they're sort of trying to talk to you, and you're in their ship and you get to watch the takeoff and the fucking light speed or whatever. And then you get to their planet and suddenly time has slowed down, but you can also understand what they're saying. And that's when you finally they tell you that you're their savior, because your brain speeds up under the light of their red sun, meaning your reaction times are so much faster that you become a superhero.
So what I'm picturing is that the group that you're sort of going up against is almost like a hostile militia or something like that has come in from another planet.
Yeah, so they're being invaded.
They're being invaded
by the long time. There's been a long-term Cold War or something, and it's just turned hot.
Yep. Yeah, I'm picturing that their leader has said some horrible things about this other group, and that basically escalated things to the point that shit went down. So this other group has gone off to find their savior. They realized from all these abductions that that some of the scientists had been performing under like black ops sort of things.
Yeah.
That the humans react differently under their radiation.
Yep. Yeah.
And
I think that this is the first human they've actually brought back. Like, they've studied humans with, artificial light and different ways and different radiation and such to sort of understand that this is probably what would happen. But they've never subjected a full human consciousness to the raw light of their sun.
So I'm just picturing the sort of weapons that you're going to be using within this game. I'm picturing they're going to be kind of gun-like, but they're almost organic guns.
Okay.
That I'm picturing you pick this one up and it's kind of got like a breathing sort of thing, or almost like a heartbeat sort of. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, well, I think you want quite a lot of visible projectiles, right?
Yeah.
And that's not to say they can't be, bullet speed.
Yeah.
Because if you've got this bullet time, you're going to be able to deal with that. But I like the idea of kind of organic style shooting out like barbs and
mucus and
goo. Yeah.
I'm just imagining almost like a spit kind of like projectile that has like little strands of mucus that just sort of connected to the gun.
Oh God, I just had an idea that, like, that sound that you make when you're building up mucus in your throat? Like that this gun, you can charge it and it just starts going.
And you realise the way that you get all these guns that you're using are actually living entities that they've genetically engineered to like do one specific function.
Yeah, they're basically just body parts that are under your control and you can pick up and put down.
You got a gas gun that is just an anus.
God, it's just the anus on the end of a tube. A flesh tube. This has gone weird. It
has.
But I really like the bullet time idea because unlike Super Hot, I love the idea of like you duck behind a pillar and then things like you're out of the sunlight, right? So things are going full speed. You're hearing, you know, the projectiles fly past you and hit the pillar behind you. And then you're like, oh, all right, they got to reload. You duck out and everything is in slow motion as you then get to kind of clear the room.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that.
And move to the next position. And then obviously, yeah, you're going to have a lot of moments where, oh crap, I can't get into any sunlight. Like I need to do some fancy move or some fancy shooting in real time.
Yeah.
Later on, their scientists work to give you a limited self-deployed sun whatever radiation to give you the slowdown.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what this other group that are there. I think they get a similar sort of reaction from the sun, like from the radiation, which is why the aliens can't actually stop them because, like,
right, but maybe not as intense as yours, or something.
Not as intense.
To the same level.
But I think we can go for a sequel. Is that they now have their attention poised on Earth, sort of thing.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, what would our yellow sun do for them?
Well, that's another thing that we can maybe go that they get superpowered in some way, some other sort of time manipulation.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, I really like the time playing stuff in VR. Less the whole fart stick stuff, but you know, I just
getting you back
on that one.
I'm just getting you back for the printer vagina.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's do one more. 3, 2, 1, click. Neighbor.
Pacemaker.
So I know what a pacemaker is, obviously, but I was kind of instead going to take that apart and make it a game about your neighbor who is into power walking.
Okay, yep.
And now I don't know if this is just a game where you're trying to beat them at power walking or if that's just an aspect of your annoying neighbor's personality and it's more a game about that relationship. Like a lot of the games I feel like we've done tonight from these perspectives, I kind of like the idea of a game where every, like a segment of it starts by you opening your front door.
Okay, yep.
And a scene plays out and you close the front door. And then it's, it pops up, 3 p.m. the next day or something, a certain day, let's say in time, and you open the door again and there's someone else at the door and it tells a story just through that literal frame. Now, I don't necessarily, I'm picturing a 3D game. I'm picturing maybe even a VR game. Mm-hmm. Just because the being able to sort of, it makes sense for you in that you were standing in one place the whole time, or you could play it sitting, I guess.
Yep.
But, you can peek your head out the door and you sort of see the neighborhood around you and different things could be around depending on the time of day and depending on the situation and the story.
Well, the idea of being able to slam the door in someone's face too.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, you've got control of the door the whole time. So you can just peek it open a bit. Maybe you have to unlock, do the little chain latch every time.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Give it that physical aspect of unlocking and opening the door. Or yeah, peeking through to see who it is first. And then, yeah, you could actually, like, that story could go in a bunch of different ways. You could keep it relatively mundane, where it's just you're sort of learning about the people in your neighborhood. And, like, first it is that annoying neighbor asking you if they can borrow fucking some power bars or something because they just got back from their power walk and they're so pumped up, and you're like, fuck off, I'm going back to my couch or whatever. And then it's Girl Scouts selling cookies, and then it's, some woman whose car's broken down, and I don't know, we'll have to come up with a reason why this person never actually leaves the house. Or maybe they do, and it's just don't tell us.
What I was actually thinking is that your character is agoraphobic.
Yeah, well, that could be...
And that's your actual reason as to why your character isn't going to leave the house, and why you sort of you order your food online, you do everything sort of online. You can sort of travel between a few different places in your house. I'm thinking that you can sort of warp there, sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe. Look, I was kind of liking the idea of it literally all being through your front door. Now, that does obviously limit the actual gameplay, like decision-making, sort of like how much you can affect the world. But I mean, it could all just be through the dialogue and actions that occur in these interactions. And we could just imply certain things in that every night it's a different delivery person at the door, right?
Yep.
And they give you some exposition of like, oh, hey, Mrs. J, like, you haven't ordered from us in a while. And sort of you start to get a sense of the character you're playing as well as what's going on. The other thing I was thinking, though, you could then also take this story to a more extreme level, right? Like, shit could be going down in this neighborhood. And again, like, you're stuck in your house, but you're starting to realize that, I don't know, there's like body snatchers, or there's fucking zombies, or I don't know, like it could go to an extreme situation, but again, you're able to just tell it through the front door. You start getting people, one person comes panicking at your front door and like they want to get in, and that could even be a turning point or even a fail point is if you let this person in, they just like eat your brains. But if you don't unlatch the door, like you can just talk to them through the gap, then you start getting a sense of what's happening. So yeah, there are a few different ways we could take it.
I'm trying to picture the sort of relationships that you can have with these people. Not sexual or anything like that. I'm picturing, just friendships and that sort of stuff. Like get to know these delivery people, and then one time, your regular delivery person doesn't turn up.
Yeah.
So then you're asking about what actually happened with this person.
Yeah, and look, I think it's pretty much all just through dialogue trees.
Yeah.
Like it's basically kind of it's just like a
visual novel sort of thing.
A visual novel, basically, yeah.
Interactive novel with certain selections on which during conversations you can make decisions as to what your character
and look,
wants
slamming
to do.
the door is the same as just saying, hey, I'm going to go now, or closing the door or whatever. Or like if you obviously it's going to be rude if you close it in the middle of a conversation, but that's always an option.
I like it.
I really like that in VR, just adding that little bit to that sort of visual novel style game with like multiple endings, and you can, you've sort of got different story paths for different people in the neighborhood. Whether we go the extreme story elements or not, maybe that's just one path. But, I
mean, one of the things that I really love about VR is just the sense of scale. To be standing there and have someone literally your size standing in front of you and you talking.
Yeah. Oh God, that's going to make even just a game as like a visual novel. It's going to add that level of immersion of there's a person there. There's a person at the door. And yeah, like they could be intimidating. They could be a large person and you look through the gap and like that just adds something to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. I'm kind of interested to see where someone could actually take this.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, there's a balance there between, obviously, you've got a single set of assets that you would need initially, which is going to be, that's low, a low amount of work, hopefully. But obviously then, depending on the amount of branching narratives and things that you want and events that you want to happen outside, you could really blow that out and have sort of a lot of custom stuff that you see happening outside.
Yeah. And I'm just picturing whether it's sort of like, are you living in a court and you're down the end of a court, or are you living just on a street that you can only see like a street that goes by? So you can't quite see a whole heap of houses.
I think you can sort of start to get the sense of where people live and stuff too. You'd have to give the player some control over the cuts, I think.
Yep.
Like to the next kind of knock at the door. I wonder if you could almost do like a time lapse thing. That could be cool.
Where you hold down a button and you see sort of like the world sort of going
or you just click the like next scene kind of button. But if you're like, and again, you've got full control of where you're looking during that change. But if you're looking out the door, then you'll see people running fast, going past quickly, and the dogs, and the sun and the light changing, or the door could be closed and you just see the light through the window sort of changing as clouds go by and as the day, like the time of day changes. And
for some reason, I'm picturing that you can sort of almost the camera goes out of body when you're not controlling the character at the door. So like you can sort of look around and your character goes about their sort of business. But your main thing is that you only really control the person at the door.
So you kind of almost so you see as someone knocks at the door, you see your character like come over to the door and basically inhabit your spirit again.
Yeah.
Like their head just merges with your camera position.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Because what I kind of like about that is, you sort of got control from the door. You can somewhat control your character, saying, you want to order this sort of food today because you wanted to talk to this person. You can order, some sort of new gadget online or something like that. But you can also, fast forward it to the next conversation, to the next time someone knocks on the door. But if you're
right.
initiating certain things, then
so you've got so maybe you're still at the door. You only ever control a character at the door, like you said. But like there's a phone, or there's or you can pull out your phone or something. I don't know. Like so, you have some ways to control who's next going to come to the door.
Or this is a futuristic world in which everyone lives in what is essentially like the size of a closet.
No, that's going to take too much out of the standard like suburban kind of thing. But exactly. I think we can come up with a solution for how we would solve that and give the player some agency over what happens next. But yeah, just having all the gameplay basically being with an open door in front of you. That's cool. There could be some really interesting stuff there. Cool. Okay. All right. Well, I think we will end it there tonight.
I think so.
Thank you for joining us this week on Bitstorm. If you want to find us online, go to podchaser.com/Bitstorm. Put us in your top 8. You now have user profiles on Podchaser, and you can set up your top 8 podcasts, and we'd love for you to put us up there because, we're awesome. We're also part of 8-Bit, the 8-Bit Collective. This is a group of like-minded podcasts about video games and other things. And you can find all of those at 8bit.net or our specific site at 8bit.net/Bitstorm.
If you love gaming and everything that entails, then check out the AGPN, the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network. Search for the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network on Facebook or AGP Network or the hashtag AGPN on Twitter. They're a group of, again, like-minded individuals who all create their own podcasts and just talk about gaming. Because that's what we all like to do. And finally, we'd like to thank us from Kurodust for the use of the song Mount Defiance off of the album Containment Failure.
That's right. So thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
And you're a fart wand.